Your grandmother never owned a cookbook. She did not need one. She knew how to feed 6 people on what most of us would throw away before breakfast was even over. She knew which pan to use, how hot the lard needed to be, and exactly when to pull the biscuits out of the oven without looking at a clock. And somewhere between her kitchen and ours, that knowledge disappeared. Not because the food was bad, not because the recipe stopped working. It disappeared because cereal companies, frozen food brands, and fast food chains spent billions of dollars convincing an entire generation that standing over a stove was old-fashioned, that modern mothers served cereal, that progress came in a cardboard box. It worked. Within a single generation, breakfast that had fed American families through the Depression, through 2 world wars, through layoffs and hard winters and empty pantries. Breakfast that cost almost nothing and kept men working 12-hour shifts and children running to school with full bellies were gone. Today we are bringing 10 of them back. And before we are done, you are going to want to call someone. Number 10. Bread and bacon grease. Before butter was affordable and margarine was trusted, bacon grease was the spread of the American working class. Every mother kept a coffee can beside the stove, and every morning started with a thick slice of white bread smeared with warm drippings and a shake of salt. In 1952, a loaf of bread cost about 14 cents. The grease was free, a byproduct of Sunday's bacon that would be thrown away without a second thought in any modern kitchen. Children ate it standing at the counter with their school books tucked under one arm, while fathers wrapped a second slice in wax paper for the lunch pail. The flavor was smoky, salty, and deeply savory. Nothing like the bland toast and margarine that replaced it. Nutritionists demonized animal fats in the 1970s, and the coffee can disappeared from the stovetop almost overnight. But recent studies have shown that bacon grease contains less saturated fat than butter. We threw away flavor and a generation of tradition because of science that turned out to be incomplete. Number 9. Milk toast. When someone in the family was sick, when money was tight, or when there was simply nothing else in the cupboard, mothers made milk toast. A slice of bread was toasted, buttered lightly, placed in a bowl, and covered with warm milk, seasoned with salt and a tiny pinch of sugar. That was it. The bread softened into something warm and gentle that cost almost nothing and went down easy. In the 1950s, milk was delivered to the doorstep for about 20 cents a quart. Combined with day-old bread, milk toast fed children with upset stomachs and adults with empty wallets equally well. By the 1970s, it had vanished, replaced by canned soup and crackers. But anyone who grew up eating it will tell you that nothing since has matched its quiet comfort on a cold morning. It was the taste of being taken care of, and that is not nothing. Number 8. Tomato gravy. In the Ozarks and across the Upper South, tomato gravy was the answer when the pantry held nothing but canned tomatoes and flour. Mothers made a simple roux with bacon drippings and flour, then stirred in a can of stewed tomatoes, mashing them into a thick, tangy gravy ladled over biscuits or cornbread. The whole dish cost less than 15 cents and could feed a table of 8. The acidity of the tomatoes cut through the richness of the fat, creating something that tasted far more complex than its ingredients had any right to. During the Depression, tomato gravy kept entire communities alive. When families moved to cities for factory jobs, tomato gravy stayed behind. Their children grew up on toast and jelly and never learned that their grandmothers started every morning with something better. Food historians at the Mississippi have called tomato gravy one of the most important lost dishes in American culinary history. It fed millions, and almost nobody remembers it. Number 7. Creamed chipped beef on toast. Soldiers brought this one home from the war, and it stuck. Dried beef, shredded and simmered in a simple white flour gravy, spooned over toast. The military called it by a name that cannot be said here, Mothers called it creamed beef on toast and served it every Tuesday without apology. A jar of dried chipped beef cost about 30 cents in 1955 and made enough for the whole family. Children loved it or hated it. There was no middle ground. But it was hot, salty, filling, and ready in 10 minutes on a morning when nobody had time to spare. Veterans ate it with a strange nostalgia, remembering mess halls and muddy boots and the men sitting next to them. The dish carried the whole weight of what they had been through and come back from. By the 1980s, it had disappeared from most grocery stores, replaced by deli meats and frozen breakfast sandwiches. A dish that fed an entire generation of American men through the worst war in history, then fed their families for decades after, simply vanished without ceremony. Number 6, red-eye gravy and biscuits. In the rural South, country ham was sliced thin, fried hard in a cast-iron skillet, and the pan was deglazed with black coffee. That was red-eye gravy. The name came from the reddish eye of fat that formed in the center of the gravy when it settled. Mothers split open fresh buttermilk biscuits and ladled that thin, salty, coffee-tinged gravy over the top. The combination was savory, bitter, and rich all at once, the kind of breakfast that prepared a man for whatever the day was going to throw at him. A country ham cost about 45 cents a pound in 1954, but it was so salty and intense that a single slice could flavor the whole pan. The coffee was already brewed. The whole breakfast fed 6 for less than a quarter. Red-eye gravy cannot be found in any restaurant chain in America today. It is too simple, too regional, and too tied to a way of cooking that requires a cast-iron skillet seasoned by decades of use. Fast food killed it, but the flavor haunts everyone who ever tasted it. Number 5, flour gravy and biscuits. Here is something the cereal companies never wanted you to know. The USDA actually promoted biscuits and sawmill gravy during the Korean War because it was cheap, filling, and made entirely from pantry staples that lasted for months. 2 tablespoons of lard, 2 tablespoons of flour, milk slowly whisked in until it thickened, poured over split biscuits. The entire meal cost less than a dime. When Kellogg's and General Mills launched their national advertising campaigns in the 1950s and 60s, they specifically targeted families who made biscuits and gravy. The message was clear: modern mothers serve cereal. Old-fashioned mothers stand over a stove. It worked. Within a generation, homemade biscuits and gravy went from daily breakfast to weekend novelty. Those companies made billions selling cornflakes to families who had been eating better for free. Sawmill gravy contains flour, fat, and milk. Cornflakes contain 17 ingredients, including 3 types of sugar. We traded up in convenience and traded down in everything else. And most of us never even noticed it happening. Number 4, leftover potato cakes. Nothing was wasted in a 1950s kitchen, especially not potatoes. Mothers mashed last night's boiled potatoes with a beaten egg, a spoonful of flour and salt, formed them into patties, and fried them in bacon grease until the outsides crackled golden brown. Served alongside eggs or on their own with ketchup, potato cakes turned yesterday's side dish into this morning's main course. Potatoes cost about 4 cents a pound in 1955. Children fought over the crispiest cakes, the ones where the edges had gone almost black in the hot fat. This was resourcefulness baked into the daily rhythm of the kitchen, a habit of mind that said nothing with value gets thrown away. Today we discard leftover potatoes without a second thought. In 1955, that would have been unthinkable, and the people who lived that way were not worse off for it. Number 3, scrapple. In Pennsylvania Dutch country, scrapple was not just breakfast, it was identity. Butchers combined pork scraps, liver, and cornmeal into a loaf that was chilled, sliced, and fried until the outside shattered like glass and the inside stayed soft and savory. Every part of the hog went in. Nothing wasted, nothing discarded. By 1955, scrapple sold for about 20 cents a pound at butcher shops from Lancaster to Allentown, cheaper than bacon and twice as filling. The smell of frying scrapple on a Saturday morning was the smell of Pennsylvania itself, drifting through screen doors and across front porches while the rest of the house was still asleep. Scrapple could not survive the supermarket revolution. Its short shelf life and deeply regional identity made it impossible to scale nationally. As independent butchers closed, the recipes that could not be mass-produced vanished with them. The breakfast that once defined an entire region has been reduced to a curiosity. The people who grew up with it know what was lost. Everyone else has no idea what they are missing. Number 2, fried bread dough. When bread was baked at home, and through the early 1950s it often was, mothers would pinch off balls of raw yeast dough, flatten them, and fry them in hot lard until they puffed golden and hollow inside. Dusted with sugar or drizzled with honey, fried bread dough was the reward for the children who helped with baking day. The dough was already made. The lard was already hot. Children stood at the stove watching through the steam, waiting for the moment the dough turned from pale and flat to golden and swollen. The smell filled the house, warm yeast, hot fat, caramelized sugar, and it meant that today was a good day. When store-bought bread replaced home baking in the late 1950s, fried dough disappeared from weekday mornings. You can find it today at state fairs, sold for $5 a piece and eaten by strangers. In 1954, it was free, made by someone who loved you, and it tasted like it. Number 1, biscuits and pot liquor. Pot liquor was the dark liquid left behind after boiling greens, turnips, collards, or cabbage. Rich, salty, and loaded with vitamins that had leached from the vegetables during cooking. Mothers saved it the way they saved bacon grease, in a jar on the stove, ready to be reheated and poured over split biscuits the next morning. This was breakfast for families who had almost nothing. The greens were grown in the garden, the biscuits were made from flour and lard. The pot liquor was a byproduct that would be poured down the drain in any modern kitchen without a second glance. But it contained iron, calcium, vitamin C, and potassium. It was a multivitamin in a bowl of broth, served over bread that cost a penny to make. Nutritionists at Tuskegee University documented the health benefits of pot liquor as early as the 1930s, finding that families who consumed it regularly had lower rates of anemia and malnutrition than those who did not. We threw it away. We poured liquid nutrition down the sink because we decided it looked old-fashioned. Then we spent billions on vitamin supplements to replace what pot liquor gave us for free. That is the quiet truth running through every breakfast on this list. The people who had the least knew the most about feeding a family. They wasted nothing, invented everything, and passed it all down by hand, until one generation decided that a cartoon on a cereal box was more trustworthy than a grandmother at a stove. This is my challenge to you. Try one of these this week. Just one. The potato cakes, the tomato gravy, the fried egg and bacon grease, the way it was meant to be made. Then come back and tell me if your grandmother was wrong. Drop in the comments which one you remember from your own kitchen. If someone in your family still makes any of these, tell us where you are from. These recipes deserve to survive.